From the All Indiana Podcast Network.
The All Indiana Podcast Network.
This is the News 8 Daily 8.
Now the latest news.
Kylie Conway has all the news you need to know.
And more.
Please stand by.
Now, here's Wish TV's Kylie Conway.
Hi, this is Kylie Conway, and this is the News 8 Daily 8 for Friday, July 10th. We got some relief today. It was still warm, saw highs in the mid-80s, 86 in fact here in Indianapolis, a low of 69. Sunset is tonight at 9:14. And the man seen on video being pinned to a tree at Lake Monroe is calling for a grand jury in the case. Vox Booker says a group of people threatened to lynch him over the 4th of July weekend. Booker's attorney has since said the FBI is investigating it as a possible hate crime. So far, no one's been arrested. The incident sparked several protests in Bloomington this week. On the first night of those demonstrations, video showed a car hitting two protesters. Yesterday, we told you about the arrest of 66-year-old Christy Bennett. Police tracked her and that car to a motel in Scottsburg. A press conference on this is scheduled for 5 o'clock. We'll carry that live on Wish TV. We'll also stream it on wishtv.com and on our Facebook page. We are just weeks away from students heading back to class, and today Indianapolis Public Schools unveiled its plans to reopen. IPS will require masks or coverings for all students and staff during the whole school day. Students will get mask breaks during the school day when appropriate. Face shields will also be available for teachers, particularly, as Superintendent Alicia Johnson said today, when it's important for students to be able to see the teacher's mouth in order to learn. For instance, if a teacher in a lower grade is teaching students how to make sounds, it'll be important that they can see the teacher's mouth during that part of instruction. There will be more space between desks, and Johnson also says touchless water fountains have been ordered. Masks will also be required for anyone who takes IPS transportation. Johnson says the goal is to have one child per row per seat. In order to expand the room on the bus, Johnson says IPS will expand some of the walk zones to school to decrease the number of students riding the bus. She says this does not mean that the distance students will walk will expand. The district's also asking more parents to take their children to school if possible. IPS also wants parents to screen their children every single day to make sure they're not putting them in school sick. Johnson says IPS is working with the Marion County Public Health Department to determine who's responsible for communicating what and when to whom. Johnson also says families will be able to opt into a full-time virtual model. The window to enroll into that is tomorrow, July 11th, and it will stay open for about a week or so. And today, thousands of high school girls basketball players are in Indianapolis for a tournament. It's the first event the Indiana Convention Center has hosted since the pandemic began in March. News 8's Richard Essex was told that 9,000 people are in Indy for the tournament. That started earlier this week. It runs through the weekend. Richard also found that at the front door of the exhibit halls is a big sign. Stop, enter at your own risk. Inside each exhibit hall, the organizers have set up 2 basketball courts. There are not many seats, and the general public is not allowed inside. Players sitting on the bench are kept 6 feet apart from one another. There are pedestrian traffic patterns to keep people separated, and the high-touch areas are cleaned by convention center staff throughout the day. Everyone who enters the building must have a face mask. The only exception is when the players are on the court. Should someone associated with this tournament test positive for COVID-19, the organizers require signed waivers from everyone every day. The waivers include name, telephone numbers, and other pertinent information. And the Marion County Fair will open tomorrow despite the pandemic. The Department of Homeland Security says their ride safety check yesterday was actually the first for a traveling show in all of Indiana because so many others have been canceled. You will have to bring a mask or face covering to the entrance, but you won't be required to wear it while on the fairgrounds. Fair staff says they will do what they can to protect you, marking off every 6 feet at the entrance, vendors, and rides, cleaning rides after every use, and keeping most things outside. Staff says the fairgrounds has a capacity of 100,000, and it will be limiting entry to what they say is a small fraction of that, so people can easily social distance. The fair is set to start at noon tomorrow. For more information on the safety guidelines, we have all of that on our website. All right, so Indiana Republicans have chosen Todd Rokita over Curtis Hill for the party's nomination for Attorney General. State party leaders announced this afternoon that Rokita defeated Hill and 2 other candidates. The decision came in a virtual vote after the state Republican convention was live here on Wish TV last month. It means Hill will not get to seek re-election after 4 women accused him of groping them in a downtown bar. The state Supreme Court suspended his law license for 30 days as a result of the allegations. Rokita will now take on Jonathan Weinzapfel, the Democratic nominee. And this next story is horrific. It is a parent's worst nightmare, and a car crash isn't something that I would typically put on this podcast, but I think this one in particular is important to serve as a very, very important reminder. 4 young siblings are dead, and a semi-driver is now in jail after he slammed into a car on I-70. State police arrested 31-year-old Corey Withrow in Wayne County last night. Investigators say he was under the influence of drugs at the time of the crash. Police say Withrow crashed into a Chevy that had slowed down for construction. That car pushed into another semi and burst into flames. Someone pulled out the driver of that car, 34-year-old Aaron Bruce. He went to the hospital with severe injuries, but 4 children inside that car died. Police identified them as Bruce's 2 children, 13-year-old Brecken Bruce and 8-year-old Trenton Bruce. Also killed were 15-year-old Inessa Acosta and 13-year-old Quentin McGowan. Withrow is preliminarily charged with OWI. More serious charges are almost certain to follow in a case like this. Immigrants looking for a path to citizenship could have trouble if they faced hardships due to COVID-19. Just before the pandemic hit, Congress expanded the number of services that could qualify someone as a public charge. The public charge rule is something the government uses to determine if an immigrant looking to gain citizenship will need public assistance. It's been around for a while, but the wording was recently expanded to include new forms of public assistance and education requirements. Since COVID-19 hit, immigrants and their families have been some of the hardest hit. Research shows that 70% of Indiana's immigrant population works in service industry jobs. So many have reported loss of income and food insecurity in the months since the pandemic started. As a result, some immigrants who'd been looking toward a path to citizenship may find that a more difficult road if they've accepted any government assistance. Experts say when applying for citizenship, accepting aid could be factored into the decision. It's also that reason why research shows fewer immigrants seek out COVID-19 testing or treatment. Other agencies have stepped up to provide resources to immigrants so they can forego looking to the government for aid. In the meantime, immigrant advocates are recommending the federal government scale back its new public charge rules and develop temporary aid relief to immigrants on the path to citizenship. You can find out how and what local agencies are stepping up to help provide financial assistance to immigrants inside this story. You'll find it on wishtv.com. Indiana University is joining a lawsuit against the government challenging new guidelines for international students. Those new rules could force students to leave the U.S. if their universities only offer online courses. IU said earlier this week that it is committed to working with students to make sure they meet updated requirements. Today, the school said it joins Harvard and MIT in seeking a temporary restraining order against the guidelines. Purdue tweeted yesterday it was also joining the lawsuit. In a statement, IU President Michael McRobbie said in part, "It is imperative that we and other universities retain the flexibility to allow any international student with a valid visa to continue their education without threat of deportation. Forcing international students whose universities have opted for online-only instruction this fall to transfer to another institution or leave the country is simply wrong, misguided, and indefensible." McRobbie is now urging other colleges to join the lawsuit. Concerts return to Ruoff Music Center tonight. Yacht Rock Review takes the stage at 7:30. They're part of Live Nation's first ever drive-in concert series. Tomorrow night is John Party. Brad Paisley performs on Sunday. Anyone going will have their temperature checked. There are still tickets available starting around $150 per car. The Children's Museum of Indianapolis is opening to the general public. The museum has been opening in phases over the last few weeks. Tomorrow is the first time it will be open to everyone since closing due to the coronavirus pandemic in March. The museum has made a number of changes to make visitors safer, including enhancing cleaning procedures, adding sanitizing stations, and placing social distancing markers throughout the facility. The museum is limiting capacity, so reservations are required. Masks are also mandatory for anyone older than 2. This has been your News 8 Daily 8. For Wish TV, I'm Kylie Conway, online at wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook when you search Wish TV.
Check out more podcasts from the All Indiana Podcast Network now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.
allindianapodcastnetwork.com.